Hi, Doug Stworski for the U.S. Access Institute, LLC. Today we look at one specific element in our lesson series called Accessibility by the Element. That's where we take a quick look at the accessibility requirements and one specific element. We also do a comparison of the different ADA and state access codes and standards. We try to cover it from coast to coast. Remember, our goal is eliminating the confusion and access compliance. So check us out at www.usaccessinstitute.com. Here we go. First, we start with the periodic table of accessible elements. It's not a real table in the access standard sense of things, but hey, we want to make access fun. And next, we look at section 502, and that covers accessible parking space requirements. And today, we are going to explore the requirements for surface markings for those accessible parking spaces. Our first step is to compare the actual surface identification characteristics that have been implemented across the United States. And we shall see what we find and discover, and we will compare our results. Okay, we won't cover all 50 states because that's a time issue, but we will look at 10 random states, and we will start alphabetically. First is Arizona. Here we have a white ISA on a blue background with a yellow border. Next is California, where we have a white ISA on a blue background with a white border. Colorado has a white ISA on a blue background with a white border as well. Florida has a white ISA on a blue background without any border at all. Hawaii has a white ISA on a blue background without any border. Nevada has a unique symbol. It's white, but it's not an ISA. It is on a blue background without any border. North Carolina has a white ISA directly on the asphalt surface without any background and without any border. Oklahoma has a yellow ISA on a blue background with a yellow border. Texas has a white ISA directly on the asphalt surface without a painted background or a border. And West Virginia has a white ISA on a blue background without any border. So what is the surface marking requirements for accessible parking spaces and the accessibility standards across the U.S.? Let's check out some of them. The requirement is pretty consistent across the U.S. with no requirement for surface marking in the 2010 ADA standards for accessible design. There's no requirement for surface marking in the 2020 Building Code of New York State, no requirement for surface marking in the 2012 Texas Accessibility Standards, no requirement for surface marking in the ICC A117.1 2017 standard, no requirement for surface marking in the 2020 Florida Building Code, and no requirement for surface marking in the Fair Housing Act Design Manual. Although each of the states shown actually had surface markings, in our study, only California has any requirement. The 2022 California Building Code says in section 11B502.6.4, it says each accessible car and van space shall have surface identification complying with either section 11B502.6.4.1 or 502.6.4.2. 502.6.4.1 says it must be a white ISA on a blue background, and 502.6.4.2 says a space is outlined or painted blue and an ISA a minimum of 36 by 36 in a white or contrasting color. So in the final analysis, 10 different states with no agreement. No agreement on the color of the ISA, no agreement of color of background, or if we even need one, and no agreement on a border. The only state in our survey requiring the surface markings was California. Yet, every state surveyed had some kind of surface marking. So these states shared the same surface markings: Arizona and Oklahoma, California and Colorado, Florida, Hawaii, and West Virginia were the same. Nevada had no partner, and North Carolina and Texas were the same. In closing, let me ask you a question. Do you think there just might be some confusion out there on accessibility requirements for accessible parking spaces? So remember, here at the U.S. Access Institute, LLC, our goal is eliminating the confusion and access compliance. So check us out at www.usaccessinstitute.com.